Hey all, it's Jan of the Jan Files. Welcome. I'm going to talk about Epstein today. I'm going to go over some of the witness testimony. I'm going to go over some of the new information, some financial information, and dig a little bit deeper into Leon Black. So let's start with people who have given testimony. Now, I've already spoken about Sarah Kellen, who was one of Epstein's assistants. She was with him, I think, about 8 years. I may get that time wrong, so don't quote me on that one. But she was with him for a substantial period of time. And she named 3 people, Philip Levine, Frederick Fekkai, and Peter Demaché, who was a photographer who's gone. He has passed away. But those people were in the Epstein files. So these aren't new names. Now what? Right? We got new names. Now what? Well, there's probably evidence that's redacted in the Epstein files that we know nothing about. Obviously, we haven't even seen. I believe there's far more than another 3 million based on what the Channel 4, the BBC said. But whatever, we know that there is at least 3 to 4 million more documents that they're holding on to for no reason except to protect Trump and his cronies. So the issue with these assistants is like Sarah Kellen, saying that she didn't want to talk about massages. Well, I understand it was probably traumatic if she also was abused by Epstein. I get it. But she also was complicit. So from my point of view, and that's all this is, and I am very connected to victims, is that at some point, you have to deal with what you did, right? You have to deal with your role in this, even if you were abused. That's healthy. That's healthy for you. And you know what? If you did that, it'd be healthy for those survivors, that they have somebody standing with them, and you didn't do that. That's my feeling about Sarah Kellen. Now, Leslie Groff, who just testified, was Epstein's assistant for 18 years. 18 years. She claims she never saw anything. She didn't know anything about it. 18 years. She handled his calls. She handled his emails. Not all of his emails, but she was everywhere. And the idea that she could sit there and say this is ridiculous. 18 years and you never saw anything. You didn't know anything. You didn't figure out when you saw some of the names or you heard the voices on the phone. You can tell when you have a very young voice. And so she claims she knew nothing. I call bullshit. And I think some of the Democrats did too. It just doesn't make any sense. But the problem with all of this testimony is that there is no consequence to it. And the only way there will be a consequence to this is if the Democrats take power. And that's what our focus needs to be on. But it also needs to be on making sure that we're getting this information now. Now, so if I hadn't done a little bit of digging, there's some things I would have missed, okay? And I think it's important. And I'm not that's why I'm here, right? Because I want to do that. I want to look shit up. I want to see what's real, what's not real. And also say out loud, I think something's bullshit. That's my thought. That's my opinion. That doesn't necessarily mean it's true. So, but I'm going to tell you how I see it. Okay? There's a fact. There are absolute facts. And I'm going to respond to those facts in my way. So that's just it. Now, of course, there was Pam Bondi, who also testified, which was just for her to blame Todd Blanche, how convenient, for everything that happened under Epstein, that it was his gig. He was the one who was responsible. God, what an awful human being. So, no, I'm not sure what the purpose was of calling her, other than to get her on the record lying again. We already have that many times in Congress, and it's got the same level of consequence, right? Because if you lie to Congress, no matter which way, it's illegal. Now, how often does that turn into anything, right? I mean, these guys, Hegseth and Emmer, they're all lying every goddamn day. to Congress. It's on their record. So, what anything come of it? I don't think so. Now, I want to talk about two more things. I'm going to start with I did see some financial information that I had not seen before. It's not huge, but I believe this, and I think that this is the thing that if we pull the string, that the entire thing will start to unravel. And the major banks were absolutely complicit. Where were they? I don't know. But the major banks include J.P. Morgan, who has already settled for their misbehavior. It also includes Deutsche Bank, Citibank had to pay, or did they give him? I think it was $100 million. And a private wealth manager at Citibank, who was responsible for Epstein's account, Thomas Bowers, killed himself 3 months after Epstein died. You know, all these suicides, it's like Russia now, right? You know, in Russia, these oligarchs, I always say that word wrong. You know what I'm talking about. Dudes with lots of fucking money fall out of windows. They fly. I think they all think they can fly because they all got out of windows. They were happy and they all just flew out of the window and decided it was time to end it all. So this is one of the reasons why these women are deathly afraid, literally, because they are still, those who were outed by the DOJ are getting threatened. People are showing up their doorsteps. I mean, this is no joke, folks. And it is why how their courage is incredible. The lack of courage within the Republican Party is disgusting. So let's just keep all these kind of pieces together. The banks should have known better. They should have known better. They should have been able, that's part of their job. That's why they have to pay up, is because they're supposed to check fraudulent transactions. They didn't. And so all this, and all these wires from Epstein to all over the world, sometimes several times a wire in a day, cause nobody to say, what the fuck is going on? And they're paying for it. Now that's new news. I mean, not that they're, at least to me, that all of those banks were that involved. And I think it really just tells us how much digging we still have to do. Now, I also want to talk about what they also discovered was that Epstein gave Russia the location to Leon Black's payroll. I mean, the people in his payroll, the people who worked for him. What? Like, why? We don't know. Well, hopefully we will know, but we don't know. Now, and this kind of leads all the way back to Leon Black, who I've discussed before. Leon Black was Apollo Capital. He was a founder of it with another dude. He resigned as chairman, I think in 20, around the time of the Epstein files, when they were going to prosecute Epstein. He resigned as chairman. He's still part of the company, just like he's still part of MoMA, where he resigned from the chairman of the board there and is still there as a trustee. Now, Leon Black is a billionaire. Leon Black is all over the Epstein files. Leon Black was 6'4" and 300 pounds, is cited in a scrapbook of a 14-year-old as having he raped her and bit her in the vagina. That caused it to bleed. Now, this woman, who was 14 at the time, I think at the time when she did the scrapbook, which is in the Epstein files, which I've read before. I don't need to read it again. It's so horrific. She actually had found attorneys to prosecute Leon Black. And the judge said that there was a problem with the case because they had given false evidence. And what they cited as false evidence was that she showed ultrasounds of three different, no, she showed an ultrasound. I think it was one, maybe two. But her scrapbook, like most scrapbooks, are, and she was limited as to what she could do, she put a picture of an ultrasound, not her ultrasound. And now this woman has been described as autistic and mosaic Down syndrome. It's the first time I heard that was today. However, the second part of this is that it may be that she kind of diagnosed herself. I'm not sure. But so I'm not sure about the mental capacity of that particular survivor. I absolutely believe her. And there was another woman who came along, Sherry Pearson is her name, and said he did the same thing to her. So there's corroboration there. And, but that case was dropped because I don't know if it's dropped, but it's stalled at least at this point because the attorneys went away. They just said, oh no, they didn't want to face sanctions. They didn't want to deal with this case, and they just walked away. Great human beings. So I don't know where that one is. Another woman tried to sue him, and that just went back and forth and back and forth. She was from Russia. And see, the problem is when you get with these billionaires and you want to do something like sue them, like people always recommend people sue people. Well, I actually have done that. And I'm going to tell you, I would never do that again unless, there was some physical, like somebody was physically hurt or something like that, where there's there is a better process anyway. But she went through the ringer with us, back and forth in court, defamation case, this case. I mean, that's what happens when you got the money. You just push and push and push till the other person doesn't have any. Or, people don't understand how much it costs to sue somebody. Mine was $15,000, and that was like a joke compared to this. Okay, so that's what they count on. They count on these people going away. That's what these guys with all this money do, is they count on their money getting them out of everything they do if it's wrong. They just figure, guess what, folks? I got all this money. I'm going to shut everybody up, shut them down. And that's what's happened. So, and the connectedness here is just still incredible, because Leon Black was connected to Brad Karp. You know who Brad Karp is? Brad Karp was the chairman of Paul Weiss, one of the largest legal firms in the country. He had to, when it came out that his name was in the Epstein files, he resigned as chairman. He's still within the law group, but he's not the chairman anymore. And he was helping Epstein and actually facilitating some of the payments between Epstein and Leon Black. And Karp is like, the only thing I did was ask him to help my son meet Woody Allen. Clearly, it was more than that. And there's a lot of this financial information that is, I believe, the thread that will pull it all apart. But again, you need resources, you need people, you need subpoenas. You don't need inviting people to voluntarily testify, which is a joke. And the Republicans are continuously a joke. So I'm just going to check what else I might have missed here. Oh, yes, I know. I didn't talk about, so you have all these accusations against Leon Black, right? The thing is, which, like they deny it, right? Except for he had to pay $63 million to settle with the Virgin Islands so that they wouldn't put a criminal complaint against him. And he paid that $63 million. Now, I'm sure they settled, and I'm sure there's, and you can't talk about this non-disclosure, which he used, by the way, with that. Remember I said this Russian woman, he went back and forth with that. She had an NDA, and that's problematic, and that needs to stop. And that's one of the reasons why I don't think that case went in her favor or went further, is because a non-disclosure agreement was cited. Well, screw that. They can't allow people to get away with criminal behavior. And that's what they're used for. Trump uses them all the time. They're his best friend, his NDAs. So again, this is all constructed within the financial world. It really is the top, the top. Well, I hate to say creme de la creme. How about shit de la shit? At the top, that is controlling all of this, even now. I believe that, and I think that anybody is completely naive who is not seeing the network. And let me tell you, it is Democrats as well as Republicans within the Epstein files. Brad Karp was a huge supporter of Democrats. So, again, this is not about just Republicans doing this. This is about wealthy white men abusing their power, taking little girls and possibly little boys and raping them without consequence. And the only way this is going to change, as I said before, is if Democrats get elected and take power. And so within the conversations that we're having and making sure, we need to keep everybody updated. And I know it's crazy, right? There's so much with the Iran war. And, we have a deal, we don't have a deal, we have a deal, we don't have a deal. There's a ceasefire. And they took out our helicopter. We then responded. Yeah, we're nowhere, except for Bibi Netanyahu has gotten what he wanted. So anyway, I don't want to go off on a tangent, but we got to keep talking, and I will be more present. I've had a lot going on right now, but I intend to try to be more present. So please subscribe, take care of yourself, okay? And make sure you find your joy. Take a day off. I know I had to do that. That's what happened last couple of days. I had to take a day off, or days off. So take care, everyone. Stay strong. Love you.